Hi everyone, welcome to Love in the Pot. Sister Shauna here, and I'm going to show you a very simple garden salsa recipe. So I have here just a few essential items that you will need. You will definitely need a cutting board, chef's knife, certainly a bowl to put your salsa in, lime juice, and the basic spices you'll need is ground cumin, granulated garlic, salt and pepper, and then you could certainly make it to your liking by adding either a hot base chili powder like jalapeno powder or smoked paprika, which I'll be using more for the smokiness as opposed to the heat, or even the sriracha spice if you really like a kick. So if you do have a small garden at home, you'll know that you'll have a plethora of fresh ingredients that you need to use. Sometimes the little tomatoes fall off before they're ripe and you're like, what to do with this green tomato? So you can, of course, fry it and have fried green tomatoes, or you can utilize it in another way. You could certainly make a variation of salsa verde. Typically that's with tomatillas, but you could certainly use the green tomato. I am making a salsa today because I have tomatoes fresh from my little garden, as well as this beautiful purpley bell pepper here, and I also have a hot cayenne pepper, and I have more of these to do with than I know. So anyway, using up some of that yield, I also have basil in my garden, so I'm going to throw some of that in as well. So before we get started, we'll do some of our basic work. I will start with mincing the garlic, and if you get the bulb, what you want to do is just either break them off if all you need is a couple, or you could certainly press the bulb of the head of garlic to loosen the cloves. Once your cloves are loosened, you can place it kind of at the base of your blade and give it a light whack, and what that does is crack the skin off. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. One thing about using fresh garlic, it certainly is sticky, but it's worth it. You can take off the little nubs at the end. Sit that to the side. Now I'm going to also do the same thing again to help break this garlic down. Give them a whack. See how it pounds it? Same application. Okay. And whenever you brush down on the blade, you want to do that away from the sharp edge. So we will just gather and rock back and forth at an angle to break that garlic down to a fine mince. Mince really just means roughly chopped. It's usually small, but it doesn't have to be. But of course, who wants a giant hunk of garlic, raw garlic at that? So we're going to break it down, and I'm going to do one of my favorite tricks, which is putting a little salt. We don't have no salt. Put a little salt over the garlic to help break it down. And that salt's going to work like an abrasive and really turn this into a paste. So just pressing down, we're smashing that garlic down to a fine paste, rocking back and forth. Okay, let's break that over into our bowl for our salsa. Okay, so as I said, garlic can be quite sticky, so I'm just going to give my blade a quick rinse and wipe off my board. I did come to you with clean hands. To properly clean your hands, you'll need to use warm to hot water with your soap, and agitate your hands, making bubbles and scrubbing for at least 20 seconds. Okay. So now we can continue. We will work with our herbs before we get the board wet with the tomatoes. So I have some basil. Like I said, I have plenty. So now, there's a couple things you can do with basil. They're having these very pretty leaves. One thing you want to make sure of when you're cutting is that you have a sharp blade. And particularly working with things like basil and tomatoes. Tomatoes are very hard to cut with a dull blade. And you can make very pretty cuts like chiffonade, which just means little ribbons, by stacking all your leaves and rolling them up together. So see, aren't those pretty? I just thought I'd show you that, but that's not what I'm going for here. So I'm just gonna rough chop it. Now, you could certainly take these straight to your bowl, but sometimes I do like to keep them separate so that I can control how I use my product. So I may cut more than I need for this recipe so that I have a little prep done for the next day. Okay, we're gonna do the tidy up once more. I like a tidy board. And remember, when wiping your blade in any way, you should always do it blunt edge down so that you do not cut yourself. So this doesn't have to be perfect, we're just doing a little tidy up. Okay. Always clean as you go. Now we will work with our bell pepper. We'll do the bell pepper first. Okay, so when cutting bell peppers, the easiest way I find is to cut the tops off first, then cut the bottom. And we will use that. Maybe I will rough chop that in some chili, or this will certainly be perfect for it, but you can make very pretty sticks this way. So all I did was made an incision on the fleshy side, and now I'm just gonna go around the ring because you can clearly see where that heart of seeds are and avoid hitting it. Okay? No seeds all over my board. Now, you can clean the veins out here and get really pretty cuts, but we don't need to do that. Now we can actually cut. So when cutting the bell pepper, when you first start, do one layer at a time until you're comfortable and you know how to handle your chef's knife without hurting yourself. So I'm just going to make juliennes with these. Then we'll turn our juliennes into a dice for our omelet. We want love in the pot, not blood in the pot. Okay. You can certainly use like a pastry bench scraper to scrape up all your cut items if you're not comfortable doing this with your knife. Smelling good already. Okay, now we'll do the onion. I'm going to remove the top and I'm going to remove the bottom. And then I'm going to peel away the top layer. A little bad spot here, we'll just remove that. Now, that even made it sit still. We will cut it in half. And what I'm going to do for this onion is cut it horizontally and vertically. So we'll go this way first. I have my hand here so that my hand is not in the range of the knife. And you could do this for as large or small a cut as you'd like. The thing is, I'm not going through all the way. I'm leaving about less than a half an inch towards the back. That'll keep it intact so it doesn't fall apart. And you just go all the way up. And now we'll go the opposite direction, also not going all the way through, and just try to make a relatively consistent size to our bell pepper dice. Okay? Now we can turn it once again and we get perfect dice. Now for our tomato, I think half an onion will do. Again, when you're doing these things, work with what you have. It's like seasonal cooking, seasonal shopping. If you shop seasonally, you cook seasonally, you get the best value on the product, you'll get what's most fresh, and also you'll get a good variety. So I'm just going to remove the core area here. I'm just twisting my knife. You could more easily do this with a paring knife. It's made for the job. Okay. I'm going to thinly slice them up, and then we'll rough chop them. He was very small. Everything's a heat. Although ironically with tomatoes, certain vegetables like squash, the fruits are actually the girls. Okay. They have female and male flowers, just like people. The baby or the fruit doesn't form without the male. I'm learning quite a lot with gardening. Okay, so rough chopping my chili, just going back and forth. Brush down occasionally, make sure we get what's accumulating on the blade. You don't want a big bite of this. Okay. And now we're actually ready to assemble our garden salsa. So, just do a little quick tidy. Clean as you go, tidy as you go, and you won't have a huge mess at the end. Alrighty, so now we have our salsa here with all our fresh components. We're going to add a little bit of that bell pepper and onion mix, about a third of it. I'm going to add at least half of my basil half of the cilantro. You can always add things, but you cannot take them out. So add, taste, adjust. All right, we'll add, I want to say about a teaspoon worth of lime juice. And keep in mind, we emulsify the garlic using salt. So go a little less heavy on the salt. That way you can taste it and account for that additional salt we added to help us there. And add seasoning to my liking, okay? And you do the same. Sometimes if the tomatoes are very tart, we often like to add a pinch of sugar just to help them, to help mellow out some of that acid. So I've added a pinch of onion powder, probably about a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder, a quarter teaspoon or so of cumin. Some people don't like it, so if you don't like it, you don't have to use it. That's the beauty in making things yourself. I added this salt and pepper blend here. It's 5 salt, 5 pepper. It's just interesting and I like it. And I'm gonna add a little olive oil. I always use extra virgin. It's a good fat and it'll give some sheen. So we'll just combine, taste, and adjust. And this can be eaten, you know, assembled in a taco bowl, like for a great alternative to go with your Sabbath meal. You could certainly eat it with tacos or as a burrito condiment, or even over eggs, which we'll go more into that later. So we'll need to taste and adjust and see what we need to do. But other than that, that's our fresh garden salsa. And I hope you enjoy it.